There is, yeah.
Mr. Becker, we are now live.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Facilities Finance meeting. I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Vogt.
All right, move right into facilities. Back to you.
All right, sounds good. On the agenda, first thing is the dust collector. Our dust collector down in the Tech Ed area is fairly old. I haven't found, and Scott, maybe, I know Scott's on here, Scott Tomkavich, and welcome back, Scott, to at least virtually. I want to say it may have been a 99 or even earlier replacement from the original. We've been having so many problems with this for a number of years. Long story short, we looked into a number of different options. This option we feel is the best. We went to Bloomsburg High School has this same dust collector in their Tech Ed area, and it is working great for them. To Niederman, the Hermance company out of Williamsport has given us, and this is kind of what it looks like. So we're going to, what we would do is hook our machines up to this dust collector. This dust collector will go into one of the back rooms. When we're running it, you have to keep the door open. We think it's going to be just as effective. You know, huge price difference between replacing the one we have. I was hoping to do this summer. We had this information and we weren't really moving on it, but then we think we have some motor issues now with our current dust collector. So what I'd like to do is move on this. We did get some online quotes, and you can see the dust collector quotes on there. Where am I at here? Again, this is from the Hermance company, and the collector itself, they have it at $8,999. There's some installation. A big part of the installation is they have to take the dust collector apart to get it in the doors, since we don't have a double door into the area of where it's going to go. So there is some cost for piping. You know, the quotes I have are just for the machine. There are $1,000 and $2,000 less, and I'm sorry I didn't put these up here, but I do have them in my folder right here if anybody wants to see the other two quotes. We do have Mr. Routon, who's a certified electrician. He's going to be doing some of the electrical work for us. And we could have this up and running in a few days. The biggest thing what we're looking at is, as Denise and I were looking through the CARES Act 2 grant, part of it's air quality. If you've been in this with our dust collector, or sometimes you go in there and it's snowing, and it's just, over the years, filters were taken out. They were trying to make this thing work better, and just with no avail. So we think with this, the air quality in that room will be a huge improvement. All right, so that's the dust collector information.
Jim, have you always had a dust collector back there?
No, in fact, the dust collector we have is outside, and yes, we've always had one out there.
Okay. So
When they're running the machines, you know, they turn the dust collector on, and as you're cutting the wood, you know, there's some little suction tube somewhere on the machine where the sawdust drops get sucked into a tube and then taken out to barrels. Same concept, just would be interior instead of exterior.
I couldn't remember if we had that when I was there or not.
Yeah.
Or if we just swept all the dust up afterwards.
Yeah.
How did we come up with sizing for this?
Well, we initially the company gave us what they thought we could use.
Okay.
We went over to Bloomsburg, and our shop is probably very similar. And it's also, they actually have more machines that were hooked up to it than we would. So, but it's the same series, same model as what Bloomsburg has.
And the representative was here to
Yeah.
look at our space and the machinery and recommended
Okay.
this particular one for us.
Right.
Is there any room for expansion on this, or is this maxed out with what we have?
No, I think we can, in fact, we're going to hook up our chop saw to it. It's not hooked up now to the regular. And the big thing is, you know, I was talking with Mr. Routon and Mr. Rarigan. They're thinking that at any one time, there's only 2, maybe 3 machines being used that use the dust collector that would, you know, cause it. And this machine will be plenty for that.
Well, one last question. They would rather have this than go to no dust collector, have extra mess and stuff in the air, put that money towards something else.
Yeah, and I think part of it is we can use the CARES Act. So we're looking, trying to improve air quality, that type of thing. And even if we didn't have this, I would suggest this because it's really to use some of the machines down there without a dust collector. You know, it's not a good environment. It gets dusty pretty quickly.
Is there anything, I mean, how many quotes did you get?
I have 3.
Were they from,
This and then
were they just from like cold calling vendors, or were they through like the purchasing network or something?
not through the purchasing network. This company is through the purchasing
Okay.
network. Yep. So well, this is the first thing. Check the number of co-stars.
Mhm.
And the other quotes I got were online quotes, and it was mainly for the machine.
They're through CoStars?
Yes, they are through co-stars. That was the first thing I checked. I'm sorry I neglected to tell that.
And you want to do this when? ASAP?
ASAP.
Okay.
We can put it on the agenda. I don't necessarily think we have to approve this because it's not, but we absolutely can.
But if we don't need to, nobody has any objections. I want to drag it out.
It's needed ASAP. Okay, so we'll get moving on that. Second thing we have is snow removal. As you know, we've had some snow, and we have an active week coming. I'd like to thank our Joe Danilovich on our maintenance crew and our 2 helpers, Chris Kreischer and Clay Farringer. They were our plowers. Yesterday, you know, it wasn't a whole lot of snow, but if we left it lay, it would have froze. It would have caused so many problems here. So, you know, I put a call out, and we did have 2 custodians come in and help shovel. Justin Schultz and Mike Brooks, like to thank them. We had an issue with our plow, our John Deere tractor. The plow mount to the tractor mount, there's a little pin that hooks down in that cylinder where you put the pin in, it cracked and broke. Joe, you know, we made some calls. Joe thought of a local machine shop out in the valley, Cale Beaver, and Cale worked on it over the weekend, manufactured, fixed us, made us a nice bushing, and it's real heavy. I don't think we'll break this. So, and he actually fixed a couple. There was some little hairline cracks. So he fixed this up. We went and got it today, so we should be in business for the snow coming today. So I'd like to thank Cale, thank Joe for spearheading that, and the rest of the guys for coming out on Sunday. Not only Sunday, it was Super Bowl Sunday, which is pretty much a holiday, and thank these guys for everything they've done.
For all the shovelable areas, sidewalks and whatnot, do we have a snow blower or only shovels?
We, the plow on our John Deere usually works for all the sidewalks pretty well. Now with it not working yesterday, we shoveled. So, but we're also looking into one of those brushes. We're also going to look at a snow or something we can. I saw one of these brushes work, and I think it'd be real neat to use on our sidewalks. I mean, I don't think for heavy snow, I wonder how it would work, but we're gonna look for something else.
You're talking like a push or a walk behind brush or?
No,
plant on
something,
Like a UTV one.
yeah, you put it on in front of the John Deere, and it's like almost like a street sweeper.
Yeah.
It'll throw the
I know what you're talking about. You want a small one or you want one for on the tractor?
Probably one for on the tractor, I would think. You know, for light snow, like I was thinking for yesterday, it would have been perfect to do that, kick it back out in the road and else could get it. But we're gonna look into that, probably do a summertime purchase.
Okay.
You might have a connection, because I saw one sitting in your, that's where I got the idea. Sitting in your, sitting across the street from my house,
Yeah.
that's, yeah. Okay. I'll have to talk to you about that. So, again, thanks to all the guys that are helping with the snow removal. It's, it makes an old man feel older when you're moving snow, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you for that.
No problem. Track naming. Eli asked me to put this on there, so I'll turn it over to Eli and we can talk about this.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, last year, around this time, it was a couple months out, Lanny Connor passed away, who was the track and cross country coach here at Southern. And me and a couple other former athletes of his and the coaches had talked about trying to get the track named after him. So the coach, or the field down there at the stadium is called Coach's Field, and it has Roth, Ulmer, and Dallas on that. And so we had discussed naming the track after Lanny. And so I guess to first start off, I just want to thank Emma Steely, Ethan Knoble, Brady Reese, and Jason Yike, who helped me gather some information here on Lanny, as well as the coaches and Lanny's wife as well, Kathleen Connor. The amount that she had to sacrifice to let Lanny, or to have Lanny dedicate so much time here to the school was immense, and I know I just don't want to let that go understated. And so I gathered some of Lanny's accomplishments here from Southern, and I'll just read them off here. It's quite a bit. So Lanny coached here for 20 years, both track and field and cross country. In that time, he accomplished an overall track record of 122 wins, 30 losses, and 3 ties. He had 5 Division III PHAC championships. He was the PHAC Track and Field Coach of the Year for 2011, 2012, 2013, 2015, 2017, and 2019. He was the PHAC Cross Country Coach for 2017. He coached 28 individual District 4 champions, 95 state qualifiers, 36 state medalists, 2 state champions, and he had 13 school records. He ended his career with a 3rd place state ranking in the Class 2A state track meet. And he inspired, led, and coached thousands of students and athletes during his tenure here at Southern. On top of that, he served 24 years at Southern. He started as a part-time driver's education teacher in 1991, and he was a full-time health and safety education teacher for 16 years here. And some of these accomplishments are his personal ones. Of course, the 20 years of coaching here. He also coached, now this doesn't apply to Southern, but just kind of shows his level of community involvement, and he's always been a local man. 12 years of coaching for Bloomsburg University, track and field and cross country. He coached for 5 years at Berwick High School. He was inducted into the Berwick Hall of Fame, and then just this past year, actually right before his passing, he was chosen to be inducted into the Bernie Romanowski Senior chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. So he has quite the legacy here at Southern, and you know, I can just speak personally for myself. I couldn't throw a ball, kick a ball, catch a ball, do anything with that, but Lanny welcomed me into cross country and track, and you know, that's the sport that I did all through high school and in middle school too, and I can't speak highly enough of him, and I know that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of more students and athletes like myself who have been really touched by Landon. So I think it'd be a really great honor here if we could get the ball rolling on getting the track named after him. So that's just my little spiel.
So one thing when Eli and I talked was, I asked him to reach out to Paul because Paul was the one who orchestrated getting the pictures.
Yeah,
we
so
were able to talk to him.
I tried contacting him. I couldn't. I tried emailing him, so I don't know if that was my mistake there. But I did find out it's PCI who made the, and then I got the measurements underneath the sign to where we would potentially add his photo. And I was just, there's a good amount of space, obviously. It's 6.5 feet at the deepest part of it, and it's up on that embankment there, so it kind of pitches up sideways. But I don't know how great a picture like it added underneath there would look. So it might be worthwhile looking into having maybe a sign right by the track or something for him. But that's something that we can talk about, I guess.
You don't think we could get another picture?
I think we could. I just don't know how nice it would look having just a singular photo appended to the bottom of it. Like I said,
could get it in.
Oh, in the actual sign. Yeah, I think we could probably fit one in there.
Why wouldn't we want exactly what we have for Jimrod 3 we want something identical to what's there now?
Yeah, we could do that too. I didn't know exactly what.
Also, I've also been at other schools where I see the person's name is scripted on the track, you know, written in track letters. I think at Shamoka, they even have that. It's written right on the track in the lanes. They put it in front of the home bleachers and also put it in front of the visitor bleachers. So I mean, I think we can be creative in whatever we come up with.
Yeah.
So what would be a process if we wanted to officially do that?
Put a motion on the agenda, then name it, and then we can decide later what we
Name it and then figure out.
how you
Make
want
sure.
to label it.
Two different processes. Okay.
Anybody who doesn't want to name
Settles that?
Okay. That's all I had. I mean, the only thing I also wanted to talk about tonight was the virtual days, you know, snow days. Currently, we've used all our in-school snow days. So right now, as we move forward, and tomorrow could be one. Bree shaking her head no. I'm right with you. I'm hoping no too, because I don't know if my back could take 2 days in a week, but we'll see. It feels better today. You know, as parents, we do have some parents here. How did the virtual days go? I mean, our numbers seem to be pretty good of kids logging on, people being attentive. I look at a virtual day versus an April 1st day, and I think we maybe can get, that's why we use those snow days, we can get those, a good deal of in-person learning on an April 1st. I'm not sure how strong will be virtual day versus a June 1st day, you know, after the after the Memorial Day weekend. So that would just be some, you know, guidance on where we go.
So the one thing I noticed, we had some teachers that did an outstanding job of trying to educate from home. You know, I know some of them also have young kids that are suddenly not able to be in daycare, not also in class, and they're still trying to figure out how to be full-time teacher for all of our kids, as well as mom or dad to theirs. Yeah, so some of them went above and beyond trying to do that. But I am concerned, you know, I don't want to burn our teachers out. There's some pretty difficult circumstances to persevere through, which they did, and you know, I didn't hear a single complaint. But I'm just saying, I noticed it personally, and you know, wanted to give a shout out to the parents who, you know, had kids crawling on them and still somehow did their job in awesome fashion.
And I would definitely second that. I mean, we had 4 kids at home with us, with my wife teaching remotely that day. So it was definitely a challenge, but I mean, it was doable. But I could see, you know, if there were people who maybe it was just a single parent in the home trying to keep tabs on a few different children while also teaching, that could definitely be a challenge for them.
What were the teachers' thoughts on it?
I really, I pulled the principals, they went and talked to the teachers. There were some suggestions, but overall, we thought it went really well. The teachers were pretty happy with the participation. And again, we understand that this is new, so on a snow day, some are still thinking it's a snow day. The numbers of people logging on grew as the day went on. And as a virtual day happens, I mean, you know, some parents were working, so maybe they did their work during the evening too. So all the pros and cons of a regular virtual day. You know, then we went to a snow day. We had those 2 days, one virtual day and a snow day. I just think one of the reasons I did that is because I knew a lot of people, and plus rural areas, there was a lot of cleaning up people needed to do.
The kids needed it. I mean,
Well, and that's the other thing. I think we have to look at that too. I mean, I'm sure if we all think back to our childhood, some of our fondest memories are out playing in the snow, building snowman and sleigh riding and everything else that goes along with a big snow.
And the way winters have gone, you know, some of these kids may never see those again, or it
Yeah.
might be 5 or 6 years.
Right.
So, and, you know, and then the other thing is, what is our ability to provide meaningful in-person instruction now versus June? We have no idea what will change between now and then, but we could only hope and assume it would get better.
Right.
We're getting out of school earlier than ever before, so I'm not totally opposed to using real snow days if we see significant storms down the road.
Right.
Yeah, people are going to do what they want. So if people want to have a snow day and you call a virtual day now, then they're not going to participate in the virtual day. If you call a snow day and people want to go on vacation for Memorial break then, they're going to do that anyway. So
where are we at with the just regular FID days?
The FID days, last year in January, we approved an MOU with the district and the teachers union on FID days. Since then, our capacity of what we can do
Right, yeah, it's
has,
beyond that.
it has, yeah, so if we call FID day, we're almost going backwards.
Yeah. So
So-
we would just call it virtual day.
So we call them virtual days, so we've used, I think, two I think we've used virtual days. And my plan was to use more virtual days, but then keep in communication with the principals, the teachers, community, and see how things are going, and almost see how positive these virtual days are as we move along, and again, understanding everything that we want to accomplish, but also understanding it's difficult sometimes, and again, kids want to be kids too. So,
I guess I would say, just educationally, it was much more valuable than FID days had been in past years, for certain. And I'm hesitant to say, hey, let's just have a regular snow day because we've missed so much good instruction time this year. Like I said, I don't want to burn our staff out either, though. Some of them have different circumstances that make it exceptionally hard to try and work if their own services are canceled. Is there any way to sort of combine the two instead of having it as a regularly scheduled log on at 8:30 virtual day, give the teachers time to record some content for say 11 a.m. so that they, it's not a FID day, there's some recorded education, but that way it's sort of, hey, we understand it's a snow day, so we're not going to try and start this right off in the morning. Take, the first 3 hours of your day to figure out when you get an hour to make some content for your class and then post it up then to work on in the afternoon. Sort of a hybrid of the two.
I might think you might want to reverse that. You might not, if the kids don't they may not come at 11 o'clock to log on. You might be able to give the teachers the afternoon to,
That might work elementary wise. Middle school, high school, when they start changing classes. Time,
The other thing is, I mean, not all snow is, kid-worthy snow. Like I'd say if it was like a, slushy, just gunky snow, I mean, just let them do a regular virtual day if it's that. But if it's something, substantial that's gonna be fun to play in, well.
no, that's kind of why.
I mean, here's the other thing too, maybe be proactive. If the weather forecast has been pretty right lately, if they're calling for it tomorrow, make the call early so people can plan if it's gonna be a virtual. And if you're wrong, who, at this point, what does it matter?
Well, I think it matters to parents who have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, believe me, there's very few nights when there's any kind of weather that I sleep at all. So, because I'm up worried, I'm looking out the window, I'm down outside, we're looking and waiting for the snow. And even last week on the 2-hour delay, I was up and, went to the shower, got out of the shower, and it was snowing. I'm like, oh, it was 10 minutes ago, it wasn't snowing. And so I think we have to, I think because, and we can make a call 5:30 in the morning if we have to. I think it's better. I'd rather, just because we've lost so much in-person instruction, I really like to try to get the kids in as much as I can. But like on some of these days, like we know, like last week we knew the next day was going to be, so that's what we called it the night before. So you're right, we'll watch the weather and we'll see. Like we know tonight's going to be a timing. It's going to go through and we're going to get some snow, and then it's going to be snowing right in the morning and then stop tomorrow afternoon sometime. That's what they predict. So might be just, who knows, depending on how much we get. Maybe we can get in here in the morning, maybe not. So we'll see. The good thing is I have a good coalition of superintendents, and we start talking about 5 o'clock every morning, if not before. Kind of seeing what everybody's doing. Plus, I really appreciate some of our township people who have communicated with me on a regular basis. On snowy, cold days, mornings.
You have a PennDOT contact that is responsive to you?
I could have one. I do have numbers. I stick with my local people.
Okay.
The PennDOT roads are going to be clear. Like for instance, coming from the media, 42, 487, Ashton Hollow. Those roads are going to be good. It's the ones that are off the main roads that will cause us problems. So that's where my township guys are really, really helpful. And the local police too. They help me sometimes. I make some calls to local police. So we'll play it by ear, go day by day. And again, if you receive any information or feedback from parents, have them call me or share it with me. That would be great. That'd be helpful in making these decisions. That's all I have for facilities. So I'll move it over to finance. I'll turn it over to Denise.
Okay, the first thing we have is another donation to the cafeteria from St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Elysburg. They donated $500 to the cafeteria, so there will be a motion on the agenda on Monday night to accept that donation. And then I think I did put the amount. Did I put the amount in there?
Yep, $500.
Almost $1,600. Yes, is what our total is this year. This is the most we've received in a year for cafeteria donations to help clear student accounts.
What's the outstanding balance?
It's about 4,000, I believe, at last count. Hang on. I think. I do have an email from.
While she's looking that up, what do we do with the outstanding balance? Just keep rolling it, or?
Try to get it. We send letters home.
Okay, but we don't take like any actual
We haven't.
Yeah, okay. I'm not
In
encouraging that we do, I'm just asking.
in long past, we used to send letters to the magistrate and stuff, but last couple of years, we really haven't. It's been good that we're contact parents
And just as a reminder for this year, there are no accumulations of balances this
Right.
year because lunches are free this year because of the summer option that we've gone into. So it's just still sitting out there.
About 4,000.
I believe it's that.
I'm assuming that a number of people have probably made deposits into the lunch accounts before that became free for the whole year.
In the beginning, yeah. So they were just applied to their accounts.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we just gonna let those balances roll till next year?
Like credit.
Yes.
We usually do unless the child is a senior. If the senior is graduating and they had a balance, then those monies are refunded to the senior,
Okay.
to the parents of the senior.
I was just thinking if there's going to be an option for a refund, maybe there could be a checkbox to give $5 or $10 of their refund towards paying down those balances. So.
Yeah, I mean, we generally don't notify people at the end of the year if they have, a balance left. It just rolls on. It's only the students that are seniors graduating.
check will be cut to whatever their account
Yeah.
is. But we could,
We don't really even ask them. We just go through. It's just a process that we do.
Would that be a hassle if people wanted to send an email to say, please donate $10 of my balance to paying it down?
we can easily send an email
Yeah.
out to senior class asking that.
Yeah.
We get closer to the end of the year, school year.
Other than that too, we have the SEA fundraising page on the website. Even something on there.
Yeah,
to
anyone
accept
can donate.
Donations.
I have
for
people
lunch
walk in
balances.
off the street and just give me cash and say they want to be anonymous and donate money for the cafeteria lunches. So
I would love to see us find a way to do online donations, like
Yeah.
thinking about Terry Sharrow's scholarship and things. If we could use a website that would allow us to accept online donations,
Specifically credit cards.
credit card
Okay.
donations, I really think that would be significant for all these efforts. Because we mentioned them during the meeting, people hear about them, but honestly, I mean, how many of us use checks for really anything? And then to send it in the mail, you know what I mean? Whereas if it's in somebody's hand, it's very easy.
The easier we make it, the
Yeah.
more we're gonna get a
There's more-
response.
A link and share it.
And we may be able to do that through our, we have like the online cafeteria donation, and it's like a storefront, and we could maybe add more things in there that, people could donate to there. As long as we're on the Terry Sharrow Scholarship, we have that set up, and donations can go to they would be sent to the high school office to the Terry Sharrow Memorial Scholarship Fund. And Adrienne Hallen, who's the secretary there, will get the deposits ready and we'll get them. And so far, we've raised $6,200 have been raised for that scholarship. That'll be a new one. And the family will be involved in choosing the scholar that would receive the scholarship. And they're setting up the criteria with the guidance counselors.
We should get that on the website as well.
Yep.
Just even have all that information available, even if we can't accept payments for it online, just so people know where to send it to and get it. Find out about it.
We can put all of the scholarships on because we have quite a few,
Yeah.
and people might be interested in donating to those.
I mean, even if we use something like GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Just for simplicity, there's fees associated with that, but they're, if I'm 1 to 3%, depending on what we're dealing with. But
That's kind of what our storefront is.
And
Yeah.
that's just a straightforward credit card
Card
processing.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's GoFundMe's easy to use.
it's real simple to set it up, and like we could have lots of them for different things and
Right.
make the tracking links.
Okay. So that is, next one is the governor's budgets, was presented last week. So the first thing, let's look at the state subsidy history. So here I'm just giving you a history of our basic education funding, the special education funding, and the accountability block grant funding since 15-16, since I started here. And so the 2021 year is still in reconciliation. And you can see that year, there from 1920 to 2021, we did not have an increase there. And then the proposed this year is a big jump. Same thing for the special education funding. Now, these are just proposed. I did not update our budget with these items because it still has to go through some vetting, and we'll see. I think they'll, like the Republican House and Senate are here, the governor's here. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. So I just wanted you to kind of have a visual of what that is. Okay, and then the other things that I attached there are just so you could see what other schools are getting in the basic education funding and the special education funding. Let me bring that up. Okay, I have the filters on just looking at Columbia County. You can actually take those filters off and download this document yourself. This is coming from the state and just kind of gives you an idea of what other schools are getting. So you can, I don't know if any of you have ever seen these reports, but it's really interesting to kind of go by county and different schools that you can kind of see what they're receiving. And there's one for the special education as well. Same thing with that. I have the Columbia County on, but you may want to expand that to other counties that are near us, or you may want to look out around Pittsburgh or closer to Philadelphia, those areas as well, to give you an idea of where all the money is going. Now, the last item I have on there is the charter school reforms that Governor Wolf is talking about. So on the first page was the notes, actually, and that kind of tells you what he's proposing for changes to charter school funding and the marks that they're going to have to meet, just like we have to meet certain things that he's proposing that they're going to have to meet some thresholds. So, and in here, again, I believe can you scroll up, Jim, on that one?
Mm. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So there you can see by county how we would be impacted. If you click on, I don't have the filters on that one, I'm sorry. But if you put the filters on and you look at Columbia County, there's Southern Columbia, you can see there's always winners and losers in these when they want to change something. So we're basically status quo. We're a little bit of a loser, but it's not a terrible loss. So, but we don't have, like some schools have tons of students in charter school. We don't have as many as a lot of the others. So we're not terribly impacted. Okay. Any questions on governor's budget? So there'll be a lot of changes coming, through a lot of discussion. We'll be keeping our eye on all that information. Okay, the next one is the report on the grants. First one is the COVID-19 health and safety grant. So I just did a summary type of this one is finalized, except we'll still receive about $10,862 in revenue. That comes monthly, so we're still waiting, for that to run out here in this school year. But we've received the majority of it, and you can see these are the expenditures. Is just kind of a summary of. I had shown you by the checks that we had written before. So this is just kind of everything combined together so that you could see what we actually purchased with the money for the COVID grant. Okay, the next one is the CARES Act. This one is not finalized yet, and currently we have in the software and licenses, we have the Edgenuity, which was the high school SoCo cyber charge. Had the CSIU curriculum that we had purchased for the elementary in there. Not sure if that's going to stay in there, if we're going to reclass that into another grant or whatever. So we're not quite done with this one yet. We have time yet to work on this one and spend that money, but you can see we're actually over budget there. So again, it's kind of the same thing that we had in the other one. It was the with computers, we had hotspot services, PPE, different, we have the cafeteria scanners where the kids got an ID, and there were lanyards and things that we purchased for that, so that it would be like a touchless system. The kids wouldn't have to touch the pin pad, and they would each have their lanyard with their ID card on. There was a water monster purchased for the sports, which is a safe way to distribute water instead of using those water bottles. So we got that. Masks for sports and shields for the cooks in the cafeteria, those kinds of things. So we still, because this grant came later, we don't have as much money revenue brought in yet. That depends on reporting, and we're still reporting on this one. So that's where that grant stands right now. Okay. Any questions? All right, let's go to the proposed preliminary budget. I just want to bring mine up here so I can see it bigger. Okay. This is the proposed version. And you'll see the first thing here are just some validation. I call them validation errors. They're not really errors, they're just questions. So the first one, we just never answer that one right away because that's for when we actually pass the budget. The second one is telling me that we have money in the unassigned fund balance. It's not zero, and you just have to write a justification. So what, in this particular budget, because we were doing a zero index, we had an $800,000 deficit, was over 800,000. So I took the two restricted and assigned and took them out like we were using that money to balance the budget. And so the remainder went into the unassigned along with the other amount of unassigned. And so that's just what that message means. So as we go through, you'll see what I'm talking about when we get down into the actual budget. First page here is our revenue, the budget summary for revenues. The first part is your fund balances, and you'll see we had 7,000 for non-spendable, 103 for the committed. And the unassigned was 1,742,000. The estimated revenues coming in are below. In the 6,000s are your local revenues, 7,000s state, 8,000 is your federal, and then any other financing sources which we do not have. So you can see where our total fund balance and revenues we're saying is 25,139,000. Now, in the budgets that I've showed you, we were actually dealing with mostly the 6, 7, 8, and 9,000s. And that number there, 22,494,000. It's about $1,000 off where I had predicted it would be. So once you run it through the formulas, you've got rounding and things like that. So we're very close. This is the revenue broken down, 6,000, 7,000s, and you can see the descriptions there. what they are. Now, looking at the 6111, that number is the number that is in the tax data formula. And when we get to that, you'll kind of see that it brings this number out. And you can see I haven't changed like the basic education from last year. I'm just leaving those as is until we get more information. Now this is the tax data page. And I want to draw your attention to the first line there. It says Act 1 index current, 3.9%. Please do not confuse that that is the index I'm using for this. That's just saying that that is our set index. So when you look at this, you can see that there's the approximate tax for real estate taxes, and I put that number in from those worksheets that I used, and everything starts to flow out to bring us down when you get, well, you go through the assessed values from last year, and we do the step market value, which that I had already received that, and the new assessed values, and then the chart continues to flow until we get down here and we see what our real estate tax rate is here on page 5. And so when we get down to page 6, on number 4, IV 4, millage rate within the index, and it says yes there. That means that we did not go over the 3.9%. Now, if I were to go back to all the charts that I did like 4 different charts, and I had different like a 3.9, 3.5, or 3. Each one of those 611 numbers, or the number that goes in up there on the, it's called approximate tax revenue from real estate taxes. If I plug that number in there, then that draws out whatever that index is. So I used the one from 0, which meant we had to use some of our fund balance. So you can see the numbers in bold on page 5, or page 5. Real estate tax, 51.96 for Columbia County, that's the millage rate, and the 68.97 for Northumberland. If we continue on down, this page, which is it just tells all about our any other tax data that we have, and it tells you at the top the tax levy generated for each county. We also do the EIT tax, which is under the 6131. We're projecting $3,675,000, and that one, once I get a study back from Berkheimer, who is our collector for that, each year they do a study for me, we can adjust that number either up or down. And maybe this year it may stay the same just because of the COVID issues and companies that had to lay people off. So, the other one is the real estate tax transfer, which is 0.5% or 0.5%, and that we're estimating about $100,000 coming from real estate transfer taxes. So then go to the next page, and this, I am on page 9. I'm sorry. Okay, so you can kind of see, looking at Columbia and Northumberland County, the percent change in the rate. Columbia goes down by 0.39, Northumberland goes up by 0.4, and you just have to remember that that's all because of the rebalancing and the formula that it goes through to rebalance the assessments and the STEB market values in that tax data worksheet. And again, it has the index here of 3.9. Just as information, it's not that we are going to 3.9. What I've proposed here is based on a 0 index with just rebalancing.
Before we move on to
Go ahead.
on the expenditures, the 92% collection estimate, where does that actually come out? Is 92% a real approximation, or where do we normally end up?
That's usually my first 92%. I'm using 92% this year because of COVID.
Sure.
It's been between 93 and 94 the last 2 years.
Okay. Because each percent is about 100K in this, as this stands right now. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And once I get, still waiting on some data from Cindy. They just closed out last year's taxes.
Sure.
And then I'll have a better idea what percentage we've collected last year with COVID. And that'll give me a closer number than the 92.
And then for the difference between 92, 94, and 100, what do we do with that? We don't pursue that, or?
Yes, they all go to delinquent, and then that gets collected by Columbia County or Northumberland County.
What's the recovery rate look like on that?
It can take years to get that.
Do we have options other than what they do? Could we hire our own collections, or
We can.
we could hire our own if we
Yes,
wanted?
we
I'm
could.
not saying we should. I
Yes.
just want to make sure I understand the options
Yes,
here.
we could.
Hey, suggestion we get you a baseball bat?
Well, what I'm looking at is we have an 800K deficit. And if we were able to get to 100% collection, which is not realistic, but if we could, there goes that deficit. Because every 1% collected is about 100K.
Yeah, I would just say, I'm not saying we can't do that. We can't get 100%. I just know that other school districts look at Southern Columbia, and when I say 92%, they can't believe we even get 92%. Our taxpayers are phenomenal. Just like after talking to other school districts, we're in a unique area, and they're very interested in education and very supportive. So.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get to 100% in a given year, but what I'm looking at is, at 100K per 1%, there may be a point where it makes sense for us to pursue it a little more aggressively and get 3 or 4% instead of, just throwing it out there. I mean, because so it's either we go after recovery of taxes that are owed, or we raise taxes on the people who are paying their taxes.
Correct.
And that's,
Well,
so.
we do collect them through, the counties right now, and Berkheimer collects all those delinquent things for us, so.
Do we have a report for like the last couple of years, what the delinquent recovery rate ends up looking like?
Yes, I can probably get that for you.
That would be useful,
Mhm.
because, so say we get somewhere, close to a balanced budget, or even where we're at right now with no tax increase, if we actually expect that in a year or two we do recover some amount, then that's different than, you know what I mean? So it's going to reflect it as a loss this year, but.
How many, do you want 5 years?
Yeah, that's probably good. Just because I have no sense for what that looks like at all. I think that would be.
Yeah, I mean, Cindy, our tax specialist, posts all the delinquents, so I'm sure there's a report that we could print out, you know, on what we're with that data for you.
Are there neighboring districts who don't use the county to pursue delinquencies? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to, you know, put an email out to different business managers. I would say it probably depends on the district. If they're not seeing the collections, they probably have to get more aggressive with that collection.
I would think it would be a good place to start if we're saying that we are superior in tax collection to other districts. And like you said, you would think that means they have to be more aggressive, finding out what they're doing and what kind of success they're having, and learn from what they're doing before we try and reinvent the wheel.
No. Okay. So moving on, the next one is just the high level of expenditures by programs and then by support services. The next page going down starts to break it out, so you can see, you know, by salary, by benefits, supplies, each area. Gives you the detail all the way down through. And then we get to page, let's see here. The next thing would be, well, I thought maybe you want to like take a look at the debt service, and the transfers that are going in and out are down in the 5,000s on the expenditures. So you can see what our debt service would be for next year, and then there's transfers that go out. One is to capital reserve. The other one would be to athletic fund. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of that one. Going to the next page, which is the schedule of cash and investments. These are just estimates and projections of what our balance in those areas are. So you can see the general fund, what we expect at the end of the year. The next one is the capital projects. I'm saying possibly at the end of this year. Right now we're at 102,000, possibly we'll be at 90,000 for capital projects which is the capital reserve. We might be at like 90,000, and a projection for the next year, because we have some things that we're thinking about and looking at, might be 70,000. The capital projects funds has a balance of approximately 25,000, and you know, we're kind of looking at different ways. That is the amount left from the track project that we had money that came in from insurance for the initial repairs from that snow where the track got peeled back. So we have that amount of money kind of sitting there for another project, and we do have to have that money spent within that 3-year period. So, you know, we'll be looking for a project for that. Now, going down, the next one is just looking at what's left in the bonds at the end of this year. After our payments, we're looking at 30,473,000, and the projection for the 2022 year would be paid down to 28,747,000. And then compensated absences, that's just a look at what the price tag is on absences that are sitting out there and what it might cost the district if, say, we had to close the school and we had to owe that money. That's just an estimate of what that would be. And to get to, try to see, the next ones we don't really have anything in there. So gets to the total page. And you get to the total amount of indebtedness through all those schedules. We don't have as much as other schools have in those. So then if you go to page 22, Mr. Becker, this is what I was talking about. So we looked at the beginning of what we have in the bank, basically. And then this is where we would be at the end. So your non-negotiable fund balance always stays. And I usually just take the restricted and the committed out to balance the budget, but the unassigned, what was left in between those two went into the unassigned and stayed there. We don't have to do it that way. We could keep the $103,000 in committed. We could keep the $800,000 in the assigned and then just take it all out of the unassigned. There's multiple ways. You could do some of each, some, a little bit of everything. This is just how I have done it. If you would prefer to do it another way, we can do it. This is our preliminary budget, so we can make those changes later on as well. And then that's the end
So,
of our budget.
Denise, so you said the committed and the assigned, you just added into that to make the 1.8, correct? Is that what you said there?
No, I removed, it's basically like I paid for the deficit with those two accounts.
Okay, yeah, that's what I basically added it all together, and the 1.8 already had those two factored into it. You just put them all into one number to begin with, and then you paid it out of it.
So it's as if I'm saying, the board is saying, we're just going to use that money.
Yeah, I understand. I missed it I was looking at it on my phone and looking at it on what Jim's scrolling up and down at the same time.
I know there's a lot of data in there. It's broken down several levels. So this is what we have to submit to the state, and this is what I would have to have on display if we were going to go through the referendum exceptions, which we kind of decided we weren't going to do that this year. So
when does the board have to vote on the preliminary budget?
Monday.
And that, at that time, that vote will be passed or not passed the preliminary budget, but we can still raise taxes as long as we stay under the index limit.
We would do a resolution saying that we do not want to raise or go above
Beyond
our
the
index of 3.9.
So even if the preliminary budget is presented like it is with zero increase, as long as we stay under 3.9, everything stays on track until the final, whenever the final decision is made.
Correct. The only thing is we don't have to put this on display. I mean, we are having it on display because it is in our board docs here. So any of our community members can go in here in the public access and they can see this budget anyway.
Just wanted to make sure we didn't procedurally get ourselves stuck that if we choose to raise taxes, we can't.
No.
So we can up it up to the index limit. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, because a lot of things are still to come in revenue-wise, that we don't know, and they're big items. So we, they just want to see what track we're on, and basically what it does is it generates a letter to us telling us what the maximum mills is that we can raise to the 3.9, and the state, generates that letter and sends it to us so that we can move forward then.
Are there any expenditure line items where there's anything left trim? Pretty significant last year.
Yeah,
We
actually,
are-
over the last couple of years, we've trimmed. We're pretty lean. I don't think it'd be prudent of us to make us any leaner.
all I'd ask.
It's good. It's good to ask.
It's a good question.
Mr. Becker, how will our next round of COVID funding, could that impact any of these?
Well, it could. We have to understand that COVID funding is one-time funding. Now, we use the funding to purchase last CARES Act, last School Safety Act. We purchased some technology equipment that was in our technology budget, so there should be a surplus there. So we're looking at doing some things.
Can we move some things out in one area, cover it with the COVID
Yes,
funding?
in fact, we're absolutely looking at everything.
We also-
Trying to,
Right, and we also have to rework our technology schedule now,
Mhm.
because we've added a lot more technology than we had originally planned to, so we have to be mindful of that particular.
Yeah, because at the end of the year, you're gonna have devices coming back in that are broken and chargers missing and cases missing, so then there's new expenses that are associated with that too.
And we've already started meeting and talking about that
Yeah.
with Mr. Davis, so it's on our radar. We're not just shoving it
we're
aside.
gonna look at,
We know we have to be mindful of that.
yeah, I have Brian looking at all our technology needs, from infrastructure to hardware. And we're gonna do a complete evaluation to make sure, and I think we're really good. Brian and his team they've done a great job keeping us or getting us where we're at. But we're gonna look at everything. We're gonna have all the principals evaluate the buildings, see where there are some needs that we can improve. And we're gonna look at programs. We're gonna look at everything. And again, no suggestion is a bad suggestion if we see something.
Mr. Becker, can I jump in?
Sure, Mr. Davis.
So one thing I just want to reiterate what Denise just said about with us adding more technology, we won't see it in next year or two, but in that third and fourth year out is where we have to be very mindful of those replacement budgets, because we've only been replacing for 2 grade levels every 3 to 4 years, where in 2 to 3 years we're going to be replacing for possibly 4 grade levels. So that's just something we have to keep in mindful. We've put together a cycle, kind of replacement cycle, to try to get benefit everybody, but it's just something we're going to have to always keep talking about and keep in mind.
Mr. Davis, do you have any numbers to go with that?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Majewski. We have a chart worked up of a replacement chart of how we do it, and it kind of entails trying to give the newest equipment to the older grades, and kind of moving down maybe the lesser or the little bit of the more mature equipment down to the younger grades to try to get everybody equipment. So yeah, we do have something worked out. I'll be honest, school board, I want to get you guys all our numbers. I keep saying I'm going to get it on a Friday letter to you, and I'm going to try real hard to get it to you this Friday, because I think it's important you see where all our numbers are at. And one thing we also have to keep in mind, we have about approximately, I think, 60 people out using BYOD. I do want to take BYOD off the table next year too, because it does make some problems when we go to do standardized testing and stuff. Now, we haven't had to do any standardized testing this year yet, but that's another area where we're going to have to kind of put more machines, more southern. But yeah, Mr. Majewski, I've been trying to get numbers together. We just kind of get hit with a bunch of stuff every week, but I will definitely try to get you guys all numbers of where we stand and all our devices.
Thank you. I want to make sure that, if these are going to be significant, expenses that drop all in a given year, that we're making adequate preparations.
Absolutely. And again, it's not going to be this year or the next. It's like 23, 24, 25. And we have to be very, very mindful of that.
The further to the right you push it, the easier it is to make provisions for it now.
Yep, I agree.
Similar to the turf or whatever the various things that, or VOTEC, as we start looking at these, if we start allocating money before the year the bill is due, it makes it easier to swallow that. So.
A couple more things, if I could just add it, since I've couple minutes here, I jumped in. So we are going to try a couple different things too. we've had some opinions about maybe having a little bit faster computers for the older grades. We're going to try, when we do our replacement computers for our 9th graders next year, we're going to try to get them machines with 8 gigs of RAM in. So that does jump the cost a little bit. And the other thing we have to keep in mind, the computer industry costs have gone up. Not significant, but let's say, for example, a student machine that we got this year for like about $230 is probably going to be closer to $260. So you take that $30 increase over, the number of machines we're talking about, it does add up. So it's just stuff that, when I'm trying to move numbers around and to make everything fit. It's just something we have to kind of keep in mind. Now, one thing I will say is, via our E-rate and via some of the flexibility we've had in our grants, our infrastructure, and I'll knock on wood saying this, our infrastructure as far as our switches, our head-end router, our core switch, that we're pretty caught up on them. We are possibly going to make a change in our backup solution, but I do believe I'll have the funding available for that. But again, I like Josh said, I do need to get you guys numbers to see where we're planning and get that chart to you, and I will try to get that to you in this Friday's letter.
Can somebody answer for me? We expanded 1-to-1 to 3rd and 4th grade. If we, when it came time to replace them, decided not to, are we bound to always, since we took that initial money, keep them 1-to-1, or?
I wouldn't think so.
No, we're not.
No.
We're not locked
The
in.
money was allocated for the purchase of that equipment.
Yeah, it was through a grant.
Okay, there was wasn't
No.
strings attached.
No,
of, hey,
no.
5 years you're gonna buy it on your own and keep it going.
No.
Okay.
And understand.
One thing else I want to throw in, and since Mr. Hoagland just brought up that comment, is we do have, again, this is something you guys should have in front of you. We have about 150 devices out to our K1 and 2 kids as well. So if you take that away, if you add that in, we're basically 1-to-1 in about grade 1.5 up. If you include those 150, we also have out. So we have quite I think Mr. Madden told me the other day, we have over 1,400 devices, as far as labs, offices, student machines. So we have quite a few devices out there in circulation right now.
Jim, I got a proposal. If I buy you a red hat that says "Make Southern Columbia Great Again," will you donate your salary? Is that a yes? I didn't hear you.
I didn't hear a no.
Not, no,
Understanding, I'm not the president. You would be more closer to the president than me, per se. That's a good thought, though. I guess I could do that if somebody would open their doors and let me move in with them.
Maybe you just move across the street.
Possible.
So, I'm gonna make a request for the next time we see the budget. Is it possible to highlight the sort of discretionary spending? I know there's certain things that we can't change. So if you could just highlight a couple of the categories where whether we would want to change or not, we have that ability. We got a big gap to close here and help us sort of focus our energy on it.
So you have Denise?
Are you, just so I'm clear, are you talking like the tuition accounts and all those kind? Is that what you're looking for?
Or are you looking for anything that's not tied to contracts?
Any expenditures not tied to contracts. That's a better way to define it.
Okay. And then the last item is the bills list for the general fund. I had that, so I wanted to just get that out to you to look at. If you have any questions this week or any questions even now, feel free to ask.
Those, the AT&T bills,
Yes.
that one for $7,497. What are we spending cell phones on?
It's not cell phones, that's the hotspots.
Mr. Vogt, that's the hotspots. That's unlimited access for, I mean, I think we're well over 200 some people we're doing internet access for now.
Which is covered by the grant.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, presently at this time.
That's the only question I had.
Okay, is there anything, any board comment, anybody?
I just want to mention one more
Okay.
thing. In the next, I'm not sure if I'll have it ready for Monday night, but at least at the next Facilities and Finance meeting, we will need to talk about transportation options for the subsidy for the 2021 year and going forward. There are two options they've put into this last, one of the last bills. And so I'll have a presentation on that. I'll try to get some information out this Friday in the Friday letter so you can start putting it on your radar and thinking about it.
We have to make a decision.
We have to make that. We have to submit our paperwork to the state by September 25th on that, what we are planning to do. So that's basically when we file for our subsidy in September anyway. But I wouldn't mind getting it up and done because we have to have Fullington fill out some information depending on the options that we're choosing. So
Denise had one other question. Check number 38010 was for Cintas for almost just shy of $1, shy of 4,000.
mm-hmm.
What service are we?
Cintas, it does all of our cleaning supplies, and we, I guess you call them like rent the rags that get disinfected at high temperatures. We used to do our own here with just a washing machine and a dryer, but with COVID, we couldn't get the temperature of the water hot enough to really do the disinfecting of the cloths. So we went through extensive training with Cintas and our custodial staff and the people in the cafeteria. They actually taught us how to fold our cloth to clean properly in the quarters and how much product to use and how to use it.
So is that a grant? Are we using the grant money for that?
We are using the grant for some of that if it qualified for the grant. Yes. Like some of the
Senate. Time or is that?
Pardon?
That's just a one-time cost or is this an ongoing?
No, it's a service that we use, but we
the
are.
actual cleaning of.
Yeah, this year we are using, because we've been purchasing so much more sanitizer and more cleaning products. So I've been using some of that to fill in the PPE supplies in the grants. You know, if it met what the grant was allowing. So I think there was some Cintas in the COVID one, and there was also Cintas in the CARES Act.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Brian, do you have any comments from the public?
Mr. Vogt, I don't have any comments from the public.
We do have an executive session. Should be fairly short.
Does anybody else have any other questions before we go to?
Just a general comment is, you know, we've been talking about the budget a couple months now. It's going to be tough decision time really soon here to start trying to close this gap and come up with some answers. I know we're still waiting on some final numbers on things, but I really like the projection of future years so we can start to see this isn't, you know, this is never your problem that we're having. It's great to get it to a place where every year we're looking almost balanced and, you know, looking to maybe shave a little here, expand a little there rather than what are we lopping off each year. So that's why I'm asking for those things to really look and trying to figure out some way to get it balanced.
We set up a GoFundMe account as well for
Put that up for the
Going to raise taxes and
fund the deficit. Erase it.
All right, I guess we're done, Mr. Davis.